Hey, my name's Perrin Desports. I'm the founder of the Next Level Executive. Thanks for a couple of minutes of your time as I take you through the details of the program. The first question to ask is obviously, would a program like this be the right fit for you? And that is sort of more dependent upon where you are in your journey. Specifically, many dentists start out when they own their first practice working with a dental practice management consultant. These are, in essence, operational consultants. They work on systems and processes within the business at a clinic level. They're incredibly valuable because they help you create repeatable processes and create repeatable results over time. Think operational systems and processes, think revenue cycle management, team engagement and culture, and ultimately you walk away from that engagement, hopefully feeling like you're a better manager of the practice that you have. On the other end of the spectrum are strategic consultants. These are consultants that typically work in a one-on-one capacity with a client who is already down the road of building a multi-site healthcare group or dental group. They have typically the client has a defined outcome in mind, a certain volume of free cash flow, or potentially even an exit, a sale at the end of that engagement. And the client is asking the consultant to help them improve the business in a way that it values more highly. Again, it's typically one-on-one guidance with some type of financial modeling based around a desired future outcome or a level of results that the client has in mind. Now, in between that lies both professional development as an executive, as well as what I would call business development, which is typically categorized through further expansion. When I talk about professional development, it's healthy to think about yourself as being a probably very accomplished clinician, but are you truly worthy of a CEO title? Are you an effective executive running and leading the business? Not just managing it, but truly leading it. Does the structure of the business now or in the future align with what you want your growth strategy to be? And are you contemplating changes in ownership, be they bringing in minority partners or equal partners? And what does governance of the business look like? It's one thing to lead the business when you own it outright. It's something a little different to run it when you have minority partners who have a voting interest in the business. I would also say that along this line of professional development comes to play things like entrepreneurial mindsets and just general leadership confidence. Why are we taking the risk to build the business itself? What do we want the business to do? Are we focused on an exit strategy, or is this more of a lifestyle business built around cash flow that allows us to lead a lifestyle more conducive to a full-fledged entrepreneur and built for the long haul? Business development, in addition to professional development, is really from a context of the fact that you already have a pretty high performing practice, like I mentioned before. So, what do you want to do with it? And how much risk do you want to take along the way? Do you want to build a business that's not dependent upon you alone for its success? When I say not dependent, I mean not dependent upon your clinical skill set, or possibly even not even dependent upon your leadership skill set, but still want to be the business owner. Are you going to have future additions, usually in terms of locations? And if you do, are you going to acquire them, or are they going to be a de novo build strategy, or maybe a blend of both? And do you have in your current team the leadership capabilities to take the business to the through the next stage of growth? Or do you need to hire from outside? What I've just described between professional development and business development is really where the next level executive program and the mindset resides. It's north of what you might call a traditional practice management consultant, but south of what you might consider to be a true strategic consultant. These are people who've reached a level of practice success, financial or cash flow stability, tremendous clinical outcomes, and they're wondering what's next. And I would tell you that this inflection point, what's next, is really that inflection point that resides around the transition away from a clinician who owns a practice and into an entrepreneur who owns a business. And those are not the same thing. So here's some of the details around the program that is the Next Level Executive Program. It's really two programs in one that I call Foundations and one that I call Entrepreneurial Leadership. I'll give you a lot more details on both of them. But the two programs themselves, I would say at a high level, are as follows. I've worked the last decade of my career as a consultant helping entrepreneurs build group practices and exit group practices. And that was really delivered through that strategic consulting lens that I mentioned in the previous slide. Foundations, the Foundations program of the Next Level Executive, is really about a decade's worth of experience in the experience that I've gained working with I have no idea how many clients in that capacity. These are all the questions that they brought to the table when they engaged me for those consulting services. These are all the mistakes they had made along the way up to that point where they engaged me. These are the things that we worked on together at a conceptual and a practical level that you need to know about how group practices fit together, how to lead them more effectively as an executive, and how to make interconnected decisions based on the structure of those businesses, the way it is now or the way that you want it to evolve. So there's a lot to it. I'll give you a lot more details of the program in just a second, but Foundations is really born out of that experience that I had working with all of those clients over the last better part of the last decade or so. The entrepreneurial leadership section of the program is different from that. And entrepreneurial leadership is really derived from my experience as an entrepreneur and working with a lot of entrepreneurs who happen to be healthcare practice owners. This is the journey that I've been on for the better part of the last 2 decades, I would say, coming out of a corporate America environment, being a founder or co-founder in two very successful startups, and now the third being a solo venture that is the Next Level Executive. Entrepreneurial leadership is built to answer the question, how do we create a business that is conducive to the lifestyle that we want to lead as entrepreneurs and that doesn't consume our family in the process? Believe it or not, you can do both. The content of the program is as follows, and I'll give you details in just a second, specific details, but Foundations has a different theme every quarter, and there's subject matter of every quarter that plays off of that theme. The content itself is based around 4 quarters, and it repeats every year. So the likelihood is that the subject matter that I taught in Q4 of 2025 will be closely represented by the content I teach in Q4 of 2026, and so on. Entrepreneurial leadership, on the other hand, is not quarterly based, it's not thematic, and it is not intended to repeat ever at all, possibly. Entrepreneurial leadership is a blank slate for me to create whatever I want that I think is topical or timely, given wherever we are with economic headwinds or tailwinds, or whatever the specific circumstances are that I want to dive deeper into for whatever reason. It is intended to be evergreen and forward looking and does not repeat itself. The delivery of both is that on Monday morning, I send you an email with links to two different videos that are about 60 minutes in length and two different presentation decks that I narrate over those 60-minute videos. You get a copy of the presentation deck in PDF to keep, take notes on, put in a storage bin or whatever you would like, print out or take notes with. And then on Fridays, we have live group discussion sessions around the subject matter of both of those teaching decks. The frequency is that this is really sort of designed to be a self-paced type of a program. And by that, I mean, I send you the video links and the PDF, the decks on Monday mornings. And then over the course of the week at your leisure, you can watch both of them. and then participate in the group discussion sessions. The entrepreneurial leadership discussion session is at 11 a.m. Eastern on Fridays, and the foundation's discussion session is at 1 p.m. Eastern on Fridays. At the end of every quarter, I reserve a couple of weeks worth of time to do one-on-one sessions with everyone in the program. And those one-on-one sessions can be about anything you would like it to be. It doesn't have to be subject matter that I covered that quarter. It can be whatever you would like to discuss at the time. It's really your time with me, and I dedicate time to that at the end of every quarter. Now, entry into the program, I try to structure in a way that you can enter the program at the beginning of any quarter. The reason for that is that in the Foundations program, none of the subject matter builds off of the prior quarter's subject matter. So you can enter at the beginning of any quarter and never feel like you're behind, and there's, for lack of a better term, there's no prerequisite to any of the information I'm going to be teaching that quarter. And those that enter in the first quarter aren't dependent upon what was taught in the prior quarter, for example. Obviously, in the entrepreneurial leadership component of the program, that is all evergreen and it is all ongoing. You can go back and audit any of the part of the course that you might have missed previously, but I'm not going to repeat any of it. The investment for the entire program is $2,250 per month. There are no contracts. You can stop at the end of any month that you want. And I'm not going to hold you to an annual contract or anything like that. I want this program to be beneficial to you. I want you to get a lot out of it. I want you to apply almost everything that you learn from a point of confidence. You may not apply it right away. It might be something that you apply down the road, but I want you to feel like this is really a program that instills in you the gaps in education and business education that you've been missing up to this point. And it gives you a level of confidence to make decisions around leadership and to become a more effective executive of the business that you own in a much more dynamic way than you ever have before. In addition to the bones of the program that I've shared here, there are two live working sessions together, two workshops that we have each year. And I'll tell you a little more details on what both of those are, but it's free for you to attend those group sessions together. I'll share again some of the details in just a second. So let's talk a little bit about the Foundations program, specifically the themes and the content. Quarter one of every year is around the theme of execution. This is really driving results through other people that are quantifiable in your business and add up to a higher level of valuation. You can see some of the subject matter there listed below the quarter one theme, and you can see that it ends with a quarterly one-on-one meeting with me at the end. Quarter two is around the theme of leadership. And again, these are roles of leadership. What do the different roles of leadership in a multi-site healthcare business do? Why do we need them? What are the functions they perform? What are the metrics they're held to? And how do we lead the business from both a strategic level and a tactical level to create greater results, regardless of the size and scope of the business that we build? Quarter three is what I call structural alignment. I really need to rename this because it's about partnerships. So there's legal structures, there's operating structures, there's equity and ownership structures, and then there are financial reporting structures. You need to understand how all of that fits together so that you understand how the business functions from both a leadership and a governance standpoint, and certainly from a financial reporting standpoint. And it is dramatically different than in a single solo practice aspect. So when people start saying they want to bring in, they want to allow one of their associates to buy in or earn into the business. Well, how do we do that? And is it at a practice level or at a management company level? Do we need an MSO or a DSO? And if we do, what are the functions it's supposed to provide to the business? Is it necessary to go to the expense and time to do so? What if we want to have non-clinical ownership in a business? How do we facilitate that? Is that necessary? There is a lot of subject matter around partnerships, what makes partnerships successful and what gives partnerships challenges, or dare I say, create partnership failure. I go through all of that in Q3. And in Q4, the theme is really around growth and expansion. So this is buy versus build. Are we going to acquire practices or are we going to pursue a de novo strategy? What about mergers and affiliations? What is due diligence and what are some of the legal constructs and contracts that we should be concerned about? All of this we cover in Q4. So between these 4 quarters in the Foundations program, these are all the top 20 to 30 mistakes that I saw people making along the way that cost them time, cost them money, created a lot of headaches, and some of them that weren't solvable, honestly. These are the mistakes to avoid, the landmines to avoid. These are typically the subjects and subject matter that give people the most cause for concern around things that they know they don't know, and even some things that they don't know that they don't know. I try to create a format and a program that addresses all of that for you. Now, that's all different from the component of the program called entrepreneurial leadership. Again, entrepreneurial leadership is really a program that I built off of my own experience of the last couple of decades. And you want to think about as you're building your business, you want to think about the business itself and what you want out of it. And I don't necessarily mean that financially. I also mean that conceptually, if you will. What good is a highly valuable business that generates a ton of income or wealth if it leaves you burned out, disconnected, depressed, and alone? That's not winning to me, and it doesn't have to be that way. So we have a business, we have typically a family, and we have ourselves to think about, and those should be congruent with one another. I'm not a big believer in work-family balance or work-life balance. I think the word balance is misplaced, but I do believe in congruency. And when we think about building a business, you want to think about, is the business itself a means to an end, or should it be a vehicle to enable us to do something greater, to have a greater purpose in life, the ability to be philanthropic in nature, or to have another side business that our healthcare services business helps to fund. Believe it or not, you can do all of the above. And while doing so, you don't need to take unnecessary or uncalculated risks that leaves you burned out and disconnected from your family. I shudder to think how many times that both personally and professionally working with somebody in a consulting role that I've seen them sacrifice truly the one thing they really want, quality time with their family and being present with them, especially while their kids are growing up. They sacrifice that in the interest of taking risks for the business that's supposed to give us more of what we really want, which is time with our family. Those to me are not mutually exclusive outcomes. You can have both, but you have to be highly intentional, especially when yours is a world that typically involves a lot of personal guarantees on debt. And then there's yourself. You are the straw that stirs the drink. You are the entrepreneur that's taking the risk to do this. So we don't want to build a business that consumes our family or ourself in the process. It's not worth it to keep just rolling a boulder up a hill every day. Again, that's not winning. So entrepreneurial leadership is a program that's based off my personal evolution into a greater understanding of the true need for congruence. And that is congruence between the business that we have, the family and friends that we want to be around, and ourselves individually. This is ongoing. I look at myself as a work in process, and I think you should too. So, as an example, some of the content that I shared through the year 2025 in the Entrepreneurial Leadership Program could have been or was highly conceptual in nature, like topics like metacognition, the freedom of time, money, relationship, and purpose, or even comparing and contrasting ambition versus action versus aspiration. So, highly conceptual topics. highly strategic topics, like a three-part series on what I felt the state of dentistry was at a significant inflection point, and furthermore, how we execute on that as business owners and take full advantage of it. That was a three-part series coming out of the summertime. These topics were often tactical in nature, subject matter like a workout process. What is a workout process that the General Electric company, GE, pioneered back in the late 80s and 90s, and why is it relevant today? We talk about the aggregation of marginal gains. That sounds really cool to say, but what does it actually mean? And how should we think about marginal gains and the aggregation of them in terms of building a better business? And the boundarylessness topic, another topic taken from the success of the General Electric company going back to the late 80s and early 90s and even early 2000s during my MBA school studies. Why is that relevant to today's healthcare services environment? Believe it or not, it's very relevant, highly tactical. Entrepreneurial topics like a three-part series on change, evolution, and growth. Again, how do we build a business that's congruent with us as entrepreneurs? And how does that change as we go through life? I'm not the same entrepreneur that I was in my mid 40s now that I'm in my mid 50s. What does that mean? How does it change over time? And how do I want to evolve intentionally and have the business evolve alongside me? And then certainly leadership topics, like a course fully on public speaking, a four-part series on improving decision-making processes. These are all from conceptual to strategic to tactical to entrepreneurial to leadership. These are different topics and topic series that I taught in the entrepreneurial leadership program this year. I think they were all highly impactful, and I'm certainly optimistic about what 2026 holds for us going forward. I got a great quote from one of the guys in the program, Dr. Brandon Pennington, the founder of Warner Robins Pediatric Dentistry. And he said, I signed up for the foundation's material and it's been great. What I wasn't expecting was how much I'm getting out of the entrepreneurial leadership discussions. It's all great stuff. I think that really encapsulates it because people come to the Next Level Executive program and enroll in the foundations part of it because that's what they know they need. That's what they know they're lacking. The entrepreneurial leadership program is an adjunct to it. It's all part of the same program if you want to take advantage of it. And I'd like to think that everybody in the program does. And entrepreneurial leadership really is that track of learning that is based around the fact that we're all entrepreneurs who happen to own healthcare services businesses. And that's a great revelation for me. And judging from what Brandon says, a great revelation for him too. Now, I mentioned earlier that we get the band together 2 times a year for 2 live working group sessions. These 2 sessions are based around the roles of Chief Clinical Officer and Chief Executive Officer. In my opinion, if you're going to build a healthcare services business, multi-location or one location, these are the 2 leadership roles that make or break the success of those businesses, Chief Clinical Officer and Chief Executive Officer. The working group sessions are not death by PowerPoint, all right? These are hands-on, in-depth, practical application 2-day sessions around different themes and around different subject matter. And they evolve each year over a year. So we're not going to teach the same concepts in the same year that we did last year. They're really designed to help you learn more about the business you have and to be a better leader of the business. They're part masterclass, part leadership development, and part experiential wisdom. Chief Clinical Officer specifically deals with things like creating your own clinical philosophy, your own standards of care, how you document that philosophy, how you enforce standards, doctor recruiting and development plans, how do you go through material selection and technology implementation, chart reviews and clinical coaching, and then dealing with negative outcomes. Ultimately, this is all about leading for greater results. The Chief Executive Officer workshop is around the role of CEO. What does the CEO of a group practice actually do? And this has a lot to do with communicating effectively, certainly strategic planning and delivering results, understanding and maximizing the value of your time, and overall being a more confident business leader. Once again, leading for greater results. One of the questions I get asked frequently is, hey, can I attend either of these two working group sessions? The answer to that is no. The working group sessions are captive to the members of the program. They're not open to the public. So you have to be a member of the Next Level Executive Program to attend them. They are free to attend to the members of the program. So for your monthly tuition, your monthly investment, that includes entry into the two programs. For 2026, the Chief Clinical Officer Working Group session will be March 13th and 14th in Atlanta, Georgia. That's a Friday and a Saturday. Arrive on Thursday. But the workshop will be Thursday and Friday. And then the Chief Executive Officer Working Group session will be in Austin, Texas, September 18th and 19th. Again, a Friday and a Saturday. Arrive on Thursday. Here are a handful of questions that I get about the program very briefly at a high level. What happens if I have a scheduling conflict or I can't attend some of the Friday discussion sessions? That happens more often than I would like to admit, honestly. I want you to be a part of the discussion sessions because I think they're valuable and I think your input is valuable to the group. That being said, I got a lot of people that take clinical CE on Fridays or they travel with their families occasionally, and some of them who are working clinically on Fridays or a full 5 days a week. I record all of those discussions, both audio and video, so you can stay up on whatever you miss. And I would tell you that, out of the 28 people I have in the program right now, about 25% of them work clinically on Fridays, and another 25% have intermittent conflicts. So, half of the people don't attend on Fridays for one reason or another. You shouldn't let that stand in the way of you joining the program. And some people like a self-paced program, and they don't, for one reason or another, want to be part of the discussions. That's quite all right. Is the program every week or are there breaks in between? Every quarter, I give you two different breaks over the course of that quarter. So, yeah, it's weekly, but it's not every week. The end of the quarter, there are about 2 to 3 weeks reserved for those one-on-one sessions. The net to this is that out of a 13-week quarter, we probably have 8 or 9 discussion sessions and teaching sessions every quarter. So, no, not every week. And yes, there are breaks in between. Do you offer any coaching for my team? Do you focus on operational systems and processes? The answer to that is no. This is really a program that's built around leadership development and the concept of becoming a more effective executive of your business. I do not focus on clinic level operations. So if you're having trouble with case acceptance or hygiene retention or scheduling efficiencies, I'm not your guy for that. Can I attend the live in-person workshops if I'm not in the program? Is there a cost to attend if I am in the program? No, you cannot attend if you're not in the program. These live working group sessions are exclusively for the members of the program, and for those who are members, there is no cost to attend. Do I get to work with Perrin directly, or are there other coaches in the program itself? The answer to that is there are no other coaches. I built this program specifically on a model that was direct access between me and the members, and I never want anything or anyone to get in between that. So there are no other coaches, and there are not going to be any other coaches. Is there any one-on-one access to Perrin outside of the Friday discussion sessions? Yes, there is. There's dedicated time at the end of every quarter for those who want it. It's not an obligation. And I'm accessible, I would say, off schedule as things arise. This is not a one-on-one type of a coaching program. It's a one-to-many program. And this is coaching, not consulting. So I want to be clear in that because I don't work exclusively in a one-on-one consulting relationship the way I used to in a prior life, and I don't represent anyone as an advisor the way I used to in a prior life. How do I know if this program's the right fit for me? I get that question a lot. If you have already worked with a practice management consultant and you feel like you have stable operations and processes and stable cash flows, and you've possibly taken some advanced clinical CE to allow you to do more complicated clinical procedures, then you probably have a very stable business and you're starting to wonder what's next. That's the point that the next level executive would logically pick up. And I think that's a logical step in in the progression of your entrepreneurial journey. So if you have a stable practice or maybe a handful of locations already that are maybe not optimally performing, but performing pretty well, and you're looking to learn how to be a more effective executive, this probably would be the right program for you. It's professional development, and it's executive coaching, if you will. I think one of the guys who's been in the program the longest, Dr. Matt O'Shea out of Atlanta, founder of O'Shea Dentistry, summed it up really well. He said the next level executive program is the ultimate guide to growing out of a dental practice and into a dental business. The steady stream of content is thoughtfully paced and feels like a perfect mix of masterclass, encyclopedia, and guided experience, all while remaining entirely choose your own adventure as you take your unique practice and business exactly where you want it to go. I think that's a brilliant quote, really, because I've seen a lot in this world, and I'm not here to talk you into doing something that you don't want to build. So you don't have to be committed to building a group practice to be in the program. I've got a lot of people who are one location. Those are very successful locations. And I think it's maybe hard to justify the risk for those people to want to take to build multiple locations when they have such a good thing going. That's quite all right. I want you to be confident of the business you own. And if you decide to take the risk to add additional locations or bring in minority partners, I want to be a guide to help you do that. But I'm not here to talk you into doing something that's not the right thing for you. If you want to know more about me, here's a slide about it, and you can certainly find more about me on the website. But my name's Perrin Desports. I'm the founder of the program. I spent about 15 years running 3 different businesses for Patterson Dental Supply. So I've got operational and field experience, and P&L experience for that matter, working for a corporate America company. I learned a lot in those 15 years, and I wouldn't be where I am without that experience. I was also co-founder of 2 pretty successful startups in Tusk Partners and Polaris Healthcare Partners. And both of those businesses were oriented towards entrepreneurs who are building multi-site dental groups, and they were looking for guidance around strategic growth processes and or bringing in partners along the way. And then certainly most of them were involved with an exit strategy at the tail end of that. I think I'd like to think that I was a successful entrepreneur in both of those endeavors. And the next level executive is my ability to assimilate all of that knowledge and experience I've learned from corporate America, from working with entrepreneurs, and from being an entrepreneur myself. And I share it on a weekly basis with those people in the program. If this sounds like something that you're interested in, feel free to reach out to me if you'd like to book a call and dive a little bit deeper into the nature of your business or any questions I might not have asked or answered in this video. I'd be happy to do that. You can book a call with me off the website, or you can see my email address there at the bottom of the page. Feel free to reach out to me directly. Be happy to share any of my experience and answer any questions you may have. Thanks for a little bit of your time today. All the best.